Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kevin Davin, and today we're going to talk about never fearing cancer again. This is one of the workshops I do in my office. I do it very often because it's very important to understand this information. I'm sure everyone listening has had either someone in their life or maybe even them themselves have had cancer. It's that common, that widespread, and it induces a sense of fear in people. So I think when people get over this, when they look through all the information, understanding what cancer is, for the most part, again, it's very complicated, but when you really understand about what a cancer cell is, what it can and can't do, it gives you a sense of peace and understanding and mastery over it so that you don't have to make an emotional decision about this stuff. You can start making very logical decisions and not worry as much as in the past. So let's get into it. Today's agenda is we're going to talk about the current treatment of cancer and the current model of cancer, which I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how off it really is. We're going to break it down to a cellular level. If you understand what a normal healthy cell functions like and what a cancer cell functions like, it becomes very easy to see what some things we can do to start making better choices are. Then we'll go over new models of what causes cancer, and finally we'll talk about what we call the Pure Life Cancer Protocol. We've put many people on it with great success, so let's get started. How are we doing today treating cancer? Well, in the 1970s, President Nixon declared war on cancer because it was such an epidemic. And since then, one out of every two men now get cancer. One out of every three women get cancer. We've done miserable with it. We spent trillions of dollars on it. And again, people are just scratching their heads. So it's very common to go to an expert in cancer or what's considered an expert. And you sit there and, they make you feel at ease. They make you seem like they know what they're talking about. And it's not to knock on them. They're doing the best they can. However, when you really get into it, they're not doing so good with treating cancer. So I tell my patients flat out, if you have cancer, you're worried about cancer, pretty much the worst place you can go is where everybody else goes because we have a horrible track record with it. Also, the gold standard when you have cancer is chemotherapy and radiation. People don't know this. Survival rate of that is less than 2% after 5 years. So what that means is from when they detect it, from 5 years away, only about 2% of people are still alive and don't have cancer. So it's a very low success rate with this stuff. I don't think people realize that. I think when they sit in front of the doctor, they think, "Oh, I'm going to be okay." I've had people in my family. I've had three people actually pass away from cancer, and they did this route after me telling them, "Please don't go this road." They were promised the newest drugs, the best drugs out there, and sure enough, looked like everything was going great, and then all of a sudden, the cancer came back with a vengeance and took their life pretty rapidly. So, it can be pretty serious stuff. So let's discuss what chemotherapy and radiation do a little bit more in detail. Number one, if you look at how chemotherapy works, cancer cells have a very fast metabolism, which means this: they have to ingest food all the time very quickly. They're very aggressive eaters. Normal, healthy cells aren't like that. So, when you put something in your body, such as chemotherapy, which is literally like mustard gas, it's this horrible toxin that goes throughout your bloodstream. The most aggressive cells eat it first and take it up first, which would be the cancer cells. Okay? Downside of that is this: there are some side effects. Cancer cells aren't the only cells that are aggressive or have a high metabolism. Your hair cells, your digestive tract, your reproductive cells also are very aggressive. So when you put chemotherapy in, it's not uncommon for your hair to fall out because your hair cells actually ingest the chemotherapy. Your digestive tract, which by the way is 80% of your immune system, takes it up very rapidly. So it creates a tremendous amount of, that's why it creates nausea, a whole bunch of nasty stuff. And then obviously your reproductive cells, same exact thing. The other thing that people don't realize is if you look at the bottom right picture, the cluster of cells, they're not all the same. You have what are called stem cells, cancer stem cells inside of there too. So a good analogy is this: if you take antibiotics, you might kill a lot of the bacteria inside of you. However, there are going to be some that are resistant to it, just because bacteria reproduce so quickly and so often. There's so many of them, so many mutations inside of them that some will be able to survive, and as a result, they actually reproduce more, and you create an even more aggressive form of bacteria inside of you. Same thing happens with chemotherapy and cancer. You give chemotherapy to the cancer cells, most of them will die. However, some of them that are very aggressive, that will actually adapt to it and can take on the chemotherapy, they'll be all that's left. That'll reproduce. And that's kind of what you see. You'll see when you do chemotherapy, a lot of times tumors will shrink at first, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom, cancer spreads like a wildfire. And that's the reason why. Number three is it worth it? Does it do anything to what caused the cancer? And that goes with even surgery. Let's say I have breast cancer in my left breast. They can give me a mastectomy, cancer's gone, but did they do anything about what caused it? So I'll tell my clients flat out, hey, even if you want to go chemotherapy, radiation road, you better make sure that you do something to change your lifestyle. Because if you don't, cancer is going to come back. The chemo and the radiation don't do anything about the cause of cancer. They just kill the cancer that's already there. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay. Finally, chemotherapy and radiation, they're both based on the current model, which is genetic mutation theory, which is this: cancer is caused by mutations in the DNA. And as a result of that, cells don't listen to the body anymore. They don't die off. They just keep reproducing at a rapid rate, use up all the material of the body, and eventually just destroys the body by eating it away. Now, here's the thing, though. According to that theory, so many things have to go wrong in the human body. So, number one, if you have a mutation to your DNA, every cell has the ability to take that mutation and repair it. And that's what happens all the time. Now, if the cell can't repair the mutation, it has another gene that it will activate to commit suicide. Now, and if someone has cancer, according to this theory, first of all, the cell has to not have the ability to fix its own mutations. Second, the cell would have to not commit suicide, so that gene would have to be mutated as well or turned off. Next, if that happens, you have cells next to it that will kill that cell, but that has to go wrong. And then finally, you have your immune system that can detect and kill these cancer cells or any mutated cells. But if someone has cancer, that has to go wrong. So if gene mutation theory is correct, your body has built into it all these safety mechanisms. Every single one of them has to go wrong. It seems like a lot of things have to go wrong in order for cancer to be happening, which doesn't make sense in seeing how abundant cancer is. There's also a study that was done with cancer cells and normal healthy cells. So if you look on the left, you got normal healthy cells with normal healthy mutations, or normal healthy DNA and gene expression. On the right, you have your damaged DNA cancer cells. Now, if that caused cancer, wouldn't it make sense if I took the nucleus, which is where all the DNA is, out of a cancer cell and put it in a healthy cell and allowed that cell to reproduce? You would think it would produce cancer cells, but that's not what happens. If you take the DNA, the mutations out of the cancer cell and put it in a healthy cell, that cell reproduces. It actually still reproduces healthy, normal cells. And it goes the other way too. If you take the DNA or genes out of a normal, healthy cell and put it in a cancer cell, that cancer cell, when it divides, still produces cancer cells. So to me, logically, it shows me cancer doesn't come from the genes or the DNA or the nucleus. It comes from something else. More flaws of the theory. 5% of all cancers do not have any mutations or DNA damage. So right then, that rules out that cancer is a DNA factor. Only 10% at most of cancer is genetic. Most of it has a random presentation. So a lot of people do the gene therapy, or they'll get their genes tested to see if they have, like, let's say the BRCA gene or something like this. These genes might be a slight indicator that you might have more risk, but it doesn't mean you have cancer. It doesn't mean you're going to get cancer at all. So I think it scares a lot of people that it doesn't need to. It's not coming from the genes. Another example, cultures with almost no history of cancer get it widespread within one generation of adapting a Western diet, which is, we call it the SAD diet, the standard American diet. Lots of sugar, lots of meat, lots of dairy. Obviously, there's a huge there's something going on with our diet because again you can have like a Polynesian culture which has pretty much no history of cancer. All of a sudden they adapt our diet. It's throughout the entire culture, just as widespread as it is here in the United States. If it was genetic, that wouldn't happen. So what we're saying here is DNA damage is the effect of cancer, not the cause of cancer. So a cancer cell, eventually the DNA will become damaged because of the cancer, not the other way around. Okay? So it's really time for a new understanding of what cancer is. Okay? Just to recap, chemo and radiation are based on this theory. It's about 40 years behind its time. There are a lot of new scientists, medical doctors out there doing work on and totally understanding that it doesn't have anything to do with the genes. It has to do with something else. So I think this is what we're going to hopefully see come out of the cancer research industry, other than just preying on people and taking lots of money from them. So let's talk about cells. If you understand what a cell needs and then what a cancer cell needs, I think we can start to formulate what we need to do differently. So a cell needs two things. It needs to make energy and it needs materials to build and grow. Very simple. In order to make energy, a cell needs oxygen. It needs either sugar or fat to burn as the fuel, and as a result of that, you get energy. For materials, it's connected to a nerve telling the brain what it needs, and the brain sends nerve messages out to the rest of the body so the body can ship what the materials it needs to the rest back to that cell. So essentially that cell is working with the brain and the body. And as a result of that, the cell actually does this, produces a tremendous amount of energy, and it needs very little building material because it's working in coordination with everything. Cancer cells are different. They're thieves. So number one, they both need energy and materials. Instead of using this formula, oxygen, sugar, or fat creates energy. First of all, cancer cells don't use oxygen. They use what's called anaerobic or fermentation to get their energy. The other thing is they can't use any fat to produce energy. The only thing a cancer cell can use for energy is sugar or glucose. So what does that tell you about what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating? Okay. Um, and by the way, because of that, it produces very little energy. A cancer cell wants to grow and it wants to spread. So it puts all of its energy into getting building materials and not actually producing energy for itself. But here's the thing, the body and the brain don't want to work with a cancer cell, do they? They don't want to ship it materials. So where does it get it from? It gets it from this equation. So if you look at it, on the left you have what's called an O plus, which is called an oxygen free radical. Free radicals are caused by a whole bunch of things, but they're very damaging to the body. We'll get into it. But essentially what happens is this. In a cancer cell environment, there's a lot of these oxygen free radicals, and they're abundant. And what they do is they combine with water in the area, and they produce something called H2O2, which you know as hydrogen peroxide. And what this cell does is it secretes it, creating the blood and making the blood more acidic. That's why in cancer you'll always find acidic blood as opposed to alkaline blood. But you'll find this H2O2. And what this does is it actually dissolves the neighboring cells, the healthy cells around it, and it allows the cancer cell to steal the material from its neighboring healthy cells. So that's how cancer spreads in the body. So right away, we're already understanding a couple things. Number one, cancer cells need sugar, not fat, to make energy. And number two, there's a whole bunch of oxygen-free radicals. So if you get rid of free radicals, you get rid of sugar, you're going to make a dent in this thing already. Here's a really good chart to understand this. Normal cells versus cancer cells. Normal cells, like we said, can use glucose, which is sugar, or fat for fuel or energy. A cancer cell can only use sugar. Now, my first year in practice, I had a referral, and they were at supposedly the best cancer clinic in the state of Florida. and they gave up on this woman. They told her, stage 4 cancer, nothing we can do. You have literally about a few months to live. And I talked to the husband, and I said, well, in the meantime, before she can make it her way over to the office, I'm like, at least they probably have her on a good diet. And he said, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, we all know cancer cells, they can only eat sugar. And he said, no, they're feeding this woman basic diet. They had soda, they had fruit juices, and not like a good kind of fruit juice. I mean like a Mott's apple juice that's added sugar, nasty stuff. So even in the most respected places for cancer, they're not doing this stuff. The most basic stuff, it's pretty scary. And maybe that's why our rate of success at treating cancer is so bad. So again, I can urge you, if you have cancer, if you know someone with cancer, I know it gets scary, I know it gets emotional, but if you go the mainstream route, you're going to get the same thing that everybody else gets. That's 2% survival rate. And I don't like those odds. As far as building material, normal cell works the rest of the body. Cancer cell steals it. You making hydrogen peroxide. We talked about that. Preferred pH. Normal cell is found in an alkaline basic body. Cancer cell is found in an acidic. Mostly probably because of the cancer making the hydrogen peroxide. Oxygen levels. Normal cells love oxygen. Cancer cells actually will. They don't like oxygen very much. Here's a fun one. Metabolism. How easily the cancer cells and normal cells can make energy. Normal cell is adaptable. Cancer cell needs to eat all the time. So what that means is this. There are people who do 30 or 40-day fast. They have stage 4 cancer all throughout their body, and they'll fast. They won't eat any food. And what'll happen is this. All the normal healthy cells in the body can slow down their metabolism and survive. Cancer cells can't. So when all else fails, fasting is by far the most powerful thing you can do. And then finally, cell differentiation, which means how defined, how complicated the cells are. Normal cells are highly differentiated. Look at an eye cell, liver cell, muscle cell, all so different. Versus a cancer cell, they're all undeveloped. They're very basic normal cells, which we'll talk about. They're not very complicated at all. So there are some better theories of what's causing cancer. We got the free radical theory, adaptation theory, trophoblast theory, and then finally we're going to put it all together, understanding the nervous system. So let's check out each one. First one's free radical theory. We already talked about it. A free radical is, very simply put, if you look on the left up top, there's a stable molecule. So you have a molecule, it's got a nucleus, and inside the nucleus you have your protons and neutrons, and then on the outside you have what's called the electron shell. Electrons have a negative charge. On the right you have a free radical. Free radicals are caused by processes inside the body. And what happens is when you go through a certain process, it'll strip an electron off of a molecule. So if you take a balanced molecule and you take away a negative charge from it, it becomes positively charged. And as a result of that, it's going to find anything it can in the body and rip away an electron from it. And as a result, it creates rust. So look at the bottom, that's rust. That's called an oxidative reaction, okay, or a redox reaction. What happens is you have a molecule that is positively charged, ripping away a negatively charged, or ripping away electrons from a structure, and rust is the result. So now picture your body. When you have a whole bunch of free radicals, this is what's happening to your heart, to your lungs, to your liver, to your intestines. They're rusting away, decaying that way. So it can cause a lot of damage. So here's a free radical theory. Someone is involved with a tremendous amount of free radicals in their life, causes rusting of the cell. It eventually damages what's called the mitochondria, which is where energy is made. As a result, the cell becomes oxygen deprived, can't make energy inside the mitochondria, so it has to make energy outside of the mitochondria. So it starts fermenting, creating even more acid, and eventually it backs up into the nucleus, mutating the cell, creating cancer. Okay. Here are all the things that cause free radicals: stress, smoking. By the way, if you remember before, normal cell can use sugar or fat to make energy. If you use sugar, you create 50 times more free radicals. So even just eating lots of sugar, medication, pesticides, herbicides, radiation, alcohol, antibiotics, too much exercise, trans fat. So think about today's lifestyle versus 100 years ago. How much more stress? A tremendous amount more sugar. I mean, you're talking, 100 pounds more sugar today than 100 years ago. Medication through the roof. We're 5% of the world's population. We take about 70% of the world's drugs right now. Um, Pesticides on the rise, herbicides on the rise. All this stuff, antibiotics. So you can see it makes sense. If you look at causes of free radicals and you look at cases of cancer, they go hand in hand. So they are correlated, but correlation does not mean causation. Number two is something called adaptation theory. So in this states cancer isn't a disease, but it's purposeful. Your body creates it on purpose. And many people at first say, why would your body create cancer? But think about it this way. Remember, cancer cells thrive in an acidic, low oxygen environment. There was a time on this planet millions of years ago when our environment was acidic and there is very little to no oxygen in our environment. So as a result of that, you had a whole bunch of cells, single-celled organisms on this planet that thrived in that situation. There are a lot of scientists who believe that this is why we have genes for cancer. What has happened is that it's a default mode that our body can go into if our body becomes acidic and low and anaerobic or has low oxygen. So think about it this way: I enter into a whole bunch of free radical behaviors, eating lots of sugar, taking lots of medications. My body over time becomes more acidic, has less and less oxygen inside of it. So my normal healthy cells won't survive that environment. So the body intelligently turns on genes for cancer, creates cancer cells so that you can survive longer, and hopefully the environment will change. Makes sense. This is my favorite theory. It's called the trophoblast theory. It's probably the more complicated one of the three, but I think if I do a good job describing it, it'll make the most sense. Trophoblasts are one of the first cells formed when you're developing inside the mother. Trophoblast cells are very basic, undifferentiated cells that hold space. They eventually turn into the placenta. But in 1902, there's a guy named Dr. Beard observed that cancer cells and these trophoblasts or placental cells are identical. And he actually came up with the theory that malignant cancer is actually a false placenta in the body. Sounds weird, but when we study it further, it makes sense. It turns out trophoblasts aren't just used for placental development, they're used for healing and growth. So let's say I drink a lot of alcohol and I start to damage my liver. What'll happen is my body wants to heal that area. So the first thing it'll do is it'll create these basic cells called trophoblasts, and they'll hold space in my liver while more defined, more complicated cells are being formed. Once those cells are formed, the immune system kills the trophoblast cells, and then the other cells come in place. However, what happens if my immune system doesn't attack the trophoblast? Okay. This is what happens. A trophoblast cell has a negative charge, has a coating around it. So picture the cell wall with a coat of paint around it that produces a negative charge. Your white blood cells are also negatively charged. So when they get close to the trophoblast, they repel just like a magnet, so they can't attack it. However, once the baby is developing and it develops a pancreas, the pancreas produces these enzymes that eat away that coating. So they strip that coating of paint around the trophoblast. So now a white blood cell can come in and destroy it. And that's where the trophoblasts actually go away. So this is how your body is designed. Let's say my liver's damaged, my body creates these trophoblasts. As long as they have those coatings around it, nothing will happen. But if my nervous system tells my pancreas, okay, time to secrete these enzymes, those enzymes will go to the walls of the trophoblasts, eat away, and then it'll allow my immune system to come in, destroy the trophoblasts in my liver, and allow this to come in. If your pancreas is damaged, either from tremendous from diabetes, which, by the way, if you have diabetes, your chance of cancer skyrockets, so it makes sense. Or if your nervous system isn't firing to your pancreas correctly, what'll happen is this. Or if your nutrition is really bad and you don't have the proper nutrition to make these enzymes in your pancreas, you can never get rid of these trophoblasts. So if a trophoblast cell and a cancer cell are the same thing, what's happening is this. You're damaging your body's making these trophoblasts, your pancreas is depleted of enzymes, so the body can't attack it, and it just grows and grows and grows out of control. And that's what cancer is. By the way, there's also a vitamin called B17. It's found in apricots. It's found in apple seeds. It's found in lots of berries, lots of fruits. And it's kind of depleted now. We don't have too much of it. Many of us don't eat the seeds or plants are hybridized. But this B17 can also eat away at the outer layer of a trophoblast. So if you have pancreatic enzymes or a lot of B17, you should be all set to fight those things. Now, these theories are awesome. They make a lot of sense, but they're missing one bit of key information. And this is the question that if you ask somebody, it'll perplex them. Why do you only get cancer in one small spot of the body and not throughout the entire body at once? Meaning this. If I take a whole bunch of free radicals in my body, if I'm a smoker, let's say, if I inhale cigarette smoke, it goes into my entire lung field. So my entire lung field is exposed to free radicals. Why is it that when I get lung cancer, I don't get it both sides all over the place? I get it in one small spot of one lobe of one lung, and then that side grows. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of that before. Same with breast cancer. If it's the genes that cause it, why do most people get breast cancer in one small spot of their breast and then it grows, and not over the entire breast, both sides same time? Here's the answer. The key is the nervous system. Every cell of your body has a nerve touching it, going back to the brainstem, and the brainstem sends a nerve over to every cell of the body. And these nerves are sending energy to heal, adapt, and to communicate with the rest of the body. If you have any damage to a nerve, so if I cut the nerve going to my bicep, for example, what happens to my bicep? It literally melts away, it wilts away, it dies. You need nerve connection. However, you can actually have damage to a nerve, and if you have damage to a nerve, wherever that nerve is going, that part of your body is now weak. It can't adapt to stress. It becomes the weak spot of your body. So this explains why only one part of the body gets sick and not the entire system. If I'm a smoker and I breathe in smoke and it goes into both lung fields, my body will adapt to it and heal as much as it can. However, if there's one little nerve that's damaged, wherever that nerve is going in that lung field, that spot can't heal. So when you smoke, you're going to be in trouble. It's what we call a subluxation. It's probably the most important thing you can do for your health, and most people don't even know that about it. 95% of adults have this condition. It's where the top bone of your neck, called your atlas, moves out of place, puts pressure on what's called the brainstem or the upper spinal cord. The messages from the brain can't fully get out to a certain part of the body, and that part of the body starts to suffer and die. It is so common, and nobody knows they have it. Let me show you a video on it. This is what a healthy person looks like. There's the atlas, the upper cervical spine, and the axis, C1, C2. You'll see the brain sending all this energy out through the nerves to every cell of your body. Now, realistically, you have a lot more nerves than this. You have trillions of nerves. It's unbelievable. In fact, you can see the whole entire body just if you kept all the nerves and that's it. Now they're going to show a sick person or somebody with what's called a subluxation. You'll see the misalignment, which is caused by any kind of accident, fall, or head and neck trauma. And what you'll see is this. You'll see a weakness on one whole side of the body. Typically, it's not a whole side. It's, let's say you have 1 trillion nerve fibers. Let's say it puts pressure on only 1 million. It's a small distribution, but wherever that 1 million are going, it's going to create a tremendous weakness. So let's put it all together. Now, this is my concept of cancer. It works very well, I believe. Again, I don't know it all. I'm not the expert on this. However, this is kind of the protocol that we use. It's unbelievable how well it works. So let's go. Let's put it together. Number one, person gets a subluxation from a small fall or accident. As a result, that top bone or the second bone of the neck puts pressure on a nerve, reduces the flow of what we call a nerve impulse or life energy to a certain part of the body, and that part of the body becomes weak and unadapting. Then a person lives a lifestyle rich in free radicals. So they either eat lots of bad foods, fried foods, they drink a lot, they smoke, whatever it is. And for the most part, the body will adapt and heal from those free radicals, except the weak area caused by the subluxation. So the whole body's taking these free radicals, most of the body's handling it, except for where the nerves are weak. In an attempt to heal and adapt, the body will create these trophoblasts to heal the weakened area. However, due to a bad diet, or because they're devoid in nutrients, and or because even they might have a subluxation going to their pancreas, the pancreas won't produce the proper enzymes to break down a trophoblast. So what happens is this cancer grows and grows and grows. This is the creation of cancer. Now, here's the cool thing. Whether all of these are right, all of these steps, or even a couple of these are right, as far as theory, the answer is so simple to this. Okay? What's the answer? It's we're going to reverse all of these things. So let's take a look. The best approach to heal that we found, number one, start with a foundation, which is your nervous system. You cannot be healthy with a sick nervous system. You can eat the best foods in the world. If your brain's not talking to your stomach and your body, you don't know, your body doesn't know what to bring in and what to kick out or where to put the stuff. So we recommend what's called an upper cervical doctor. It's a very specific form of chiropractic that will blow you away. If you need any help finding one, please don't hesitate to call the office or contact me. We'll find you somebody in your area. Number two, you want to reduce the free radical lifestyle as much as possible, which means this. You're never going to get rid of it. You're always going to have free radicals. And in fact, in small doses, they're important. They kill parasites and things like that in your body. But we want to reduce sugar intake a tremendous amount. By the way, fruit is okay. Fruit sugar is awesome. And the reason for it is fruit has a lot of anti-cancerous material in it. The sugar inside fruit, it's bound to fiber, which goes through your digestive tract and feeds all the healthy bacteria, and they actually produce anti-cancerous things. So when I say no sugar, I mean processed sugar. I mean breads, pastas, rice, and then table sugar for sure. Okay. No alcohol or smoking, no medications. Try to get off your medications. And then the other thing is this. Remember, cancer cells have a lot of oxygen-free radicals. You can do something called ozone therapy. Ozone is O3. So when you take O3 and then you take O positive and you combine them, you'll get O2, which is pure oxygen. So if you want to get rid of a lot of the free radicals in your body, get some ozone therapy. But also, antioxidants are the opposite of a free radical. If a free radical has a positive charge, antioxidants have a negative charge. And they combine together, creating a neutral thing, and it comes out of your body. So where do you get antioxidants from? Your fruits. You got to eat tons of fruits. Eat a clean diet to help pancreas heal and replace enzymes. So you want to diet high in vitamin B17. You want to eat lots of minerals. You want to eat, so pretty much this. Fruits and vegetables have everything we could ever need in them to survive. That's what we really want to eat. And then when in doubt, fast. We recommend everyone do a fasting protocol. If you don't have cancer and you're just concerned about it, this is what I'd recommend. Do our basic diet plan, which you can find on our website, or we can send it to you if you'd like. In fact, I'll attach a link below this to get the ebook. But essentially, it's fasting 1 day a week for a whole day. Then it's also doing intermittent fasting every day, which means skip a meal, skip breakfast, or skip dinner every day, or only eating from 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock for an 8-hour window. And then 4 times a year, do about a 3 to 5 day water fast and see how you do. Okay? Always start slow and build up. So if you have, let's say, stage 4 cancer, I would do this. I would start by doing a day or two water fast, day or two water fast a couple times a week. And then when I've done it enough and I feel comfortable, I would start doing longer and longer water fasts until I can even do about a 30-day water fast. Again, you want to do this with some supervision. Go to your doctor, someone you feel comfortable with, to make sure that everything's okay. But this, when in doubt, best thing you can do, fast for a long period of time to kill out all the cancer cells. Essentially, this is what we're doing. We're creating an environment of health. Only healthy things will grow. So, when we're talking about any disease, not just cancer at all, understand this: a healthy body cures itself. So, never treat a disease, always restore health to the body. And that's what we're doing with all these things. We're creating a perfect nervous system, and then we're eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, which is what we should be eating. We make a healthy environment inside of us, and cancer cells can't grow in that environment. Guys, if you have any questions at all, please call my office. Send us an email. Any feedback, please let us know about it. We're here to help you. We really love you guys, and if you have any questions, let us know. Hope all is well. Love you. Bye.